Hi guys, so I'm back again with our Unit 5 study guide. Now remember, all of these pieces of information are going to come from this book, which is You're Ready to Write 2. We are on Unit 5. Unit 5 is made up of chapters 4 and 7. So if you go ahead and get it out, in the presentation I'm going to give you a couple of page numbers that you can look at for reference. So if you've got this, you can get it out. If you don't have this, make sure to go to our Schoology page where I have linked the PowerPoint of all of this information. The only thing is you won't get me explaining it. But if you are a linguistic reader or a linguistic learner, then maybe the PowerPoint is actually a better way for you to study. So let's go on ahead and let's get started. Now, first we talked about Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is all about organizing information according to order of importance. We talked about two different ways that we can do this. We can organize information starting with most important and going to least important, or we can start with the least important idea and work our way up to the most important. So those are two different ways that you can organize information according to order of importance. Now, the second way is using equal order. So equal order means that all of the information is equally important. You can't say that one idea is better than the other. One way to remember this is if you remove one of those ideas, all of the other ideas are affected. They're all equally important. Think about that itinerary that we looked at in class, that agenda, where if they removed one piece of information from that agenda, then all of the other parts would be affected. So that is in Chapter 4, and I think it is in the last page, or the last few pages. I'll get that page number for you. I've got my book right here. That is on page 49 of the Ready to Write 2 4th edition. So now the other part of Chapter 4 that we talked about were some new transition words, because time order we have talked about, and you guys are pros at time order, but it's time to expand beyond time order. Plus, all of the topics that we're talking about are not in time order now. So words like first, next, then, those don't make sense. So we have a couple of transition words that show time order, or no, sorry. We have a couple of words that show order of importance, and I've listed those below, right over there. And we have some transition words that are more neutral, that they actually don't show importance order. So those transitions would be good for paragraphs of equal order. However, you can mix and match both of these for paragraphs that are arranged in order of importance. Now, let's move on to Chapter 7. Chapter 7 was all about different ways to support our topic sentence or our main idea. So the first way that we talked about was providing additional details. So providing more information about a point. Now remember, the more details that you write to explain your ideas, the clearer that your main points become. I always like to think of this as if you're talking to maybe a 2 or a 3-year-old. If you guys have toddlers in your family, you will understand this. When you tell them to do something, they always ask, why? Why should I do that? Tell me why. What kind should I do? They always ask questions. So when I write, I always think of myself as if I were talking to maybe a 2 or a 3-year-old. So I can anticipate the questions that they might have and answer them. Well, why do you think that? Well, because of this reason. Because of this reason. Well, what are some other, why should I worry about that? Well, because of this reason. Because of this reason. So if you think of it that way, you can anticipate the questions that the reader will have and answer their questions so they don't even have to ask them. Now, after supporting the main idea with specifics, we also talked about using examples for support. And remember, we talked about 3 different transition words that we can use for examples or introducing examples. We talked about for instance. We also talked about for example. And remember, both of those we treat just like normal transition words. They go at the beginning of a sentence, followed by a comma, and then given a complete sentence. Now, we also talked about such as. Such as is different because it does not go at the beginning of a complete sentence. Instead, it goes inside a complete sentence. Usually, such as is used for maybe 1 or 2 word examples. I like my classes at ESLI such as grammar and writing. So, such as is used for short 1 or 2 word examples, whereas for instance and for example, those are used for longer sentences, complete sentences. Now, after we discussed that, we also talked about using graphs and charts to support the main idea. Remember, we had this list of verbs at the top of our page, and I'm going to get that page number for you. It is on page number 85. Okay, so page 85, we had a list of verbs, and remember we talked about, do these verbs indicate positive change, negative change, or neutral, or no change? Now, remember, if you remember those positive, negative, and neutral, you will be able to use them to describe certain amounts of change. So if you see a graph that measures over time and that line goes up, we know we can use words like increase or rise. But if you see that same graph and the ideas are going down, then you know we can use verbs like decrease or decline. So remember those verbs in case you are asked to describe change. Now also we talked about different adverbs and adjectives, and I've listed them over here so that you can see the adjective form and the adverb form. So, if we have a section on the test that is similar to the quiz, you will be asked to identify, do I need to put an adverb here? Do I need to put an adjective here? Also remember, there are a couple of verbs that you have to add A-T-I-O-N to in order to make them a noun. Also, take a look over here at small. Small is special. Small is different. Now, the other thing that I want you guys to remember when you are supporting the main idea is you are going to use facts overall to support this topic sentence, but you're not going to include facts that are not connected. So, when I give you a graph, when I give you a chart, the purpose is not to see, oh, can they write a sentence describing the change? Can they put the adjectives and the adverbs in the right place? The purpose of a graph or a chart in writing is so that you can look at overall trends, bigger picture ideas, and then you can apply them to whatever topic sentence that you have. So you can use those, remember, to support that main idea. Okay, the last thing that we discussed were quotations. Quotations have some rules when it comes to punctuating them. So remember to put those person's exact words in quotation marks, these things. Also remember to place a comma between the introductory phrase where you say according to or so-and-so says. Place a comma after that to introduce that quote. Also, placing periods, question marks, exclamation points inside those quotation marks. So not on the outside, but on the inside. And then also capitalizing the first word of a quote, because usually the first word of a quote is the first word of a sentence. So it only makes sense. You're going to capitalize the first word of the sentence. So you're going to capitalize the first word of a quote as well. Now, one other thing about introducing quotes, make sure that you use a verb to introduce that quote as well as the name of the person who said it. You can also use according to, and then the person's name, but just like we talked about a few seconds ago, make sure you put a comma there to separate that introduction or introductory phrase from the quotation. Now your book gave you a list of several verbs, which I have listed over here, down here. And I want you to remember when you are using these that you are also using them in the simple present unless you have a date in your introductory phrase, which probably will not happen for this test. Now, the test. There are several things you need to do for this test. This test will ask you to punctuate quotes correctly. This test will also ask you to give supporting details about a topic sentence. And this test will also ask you to describe change using those adjectives and adverbs and the verbs that we studied in Chapter 7, those that are on page 85. So, take a look at those. Make sure that you understand, are they positive, are they negative, or are they neutral? Because you might be asked to use those to describe a graph. Now, as always, there will be a writing section on this test, and you will be asked to write a paragraph with pre-writing. A lot of us are forgetting to do the pre-writing section. That is usually a good 10 points that you can get just by putting your ideas down. Right? Don't skip the pre-writing step of your paragraph. Anyway, so your paragraph will be in either equal order or order of importance. I will tell you on the test which one that you need to use. You will be asked to use either details, examples, a graph or chart, or a quote to support your topic sentence. So it will be similar to the activities that we're doing in class. You just don't know which activity I'm going to ask you to do. Also, as per normal, I will give you 2 options on the test. Make sure you circle the option that you are answering so that I know what kind of answer to expect from you. Okay, so hopefully this PowerPoint was helpful. Hopefully you have a better idea about what will be on the test. If you have any questions about the exam, you can do 2 things. 3 things, actually. You can do 3 things. First, you can leave a comment below, and I'll try to get back to you before we take our test. You can also email me. You guys have my email. Or you can also message me on Schoology in our Schoology class. So you got 3 different ways to contact me if you have a question about anything on this PowerPoint. Okay, we are nearing the end of the semester, so tests are becoming increasingly important. So spend some time studying and preparing for this test so that we can all improve our grades. I will see you guys the next class period, and I wish you the best of luck. Bye.